Pelosi versus Mnuchin. It's all over, at least for now. President Trump says the negotiations between Steve and Nancy Pelosi are off as of today until after the election, which is November 8th. The question is whether the president would do executive orders and whether Steve Mnuchin will be part of that discussion. It's not quite clear what happened between these parties because we were told false narratives every single day from Pelosi versus Mnuchin. But as we sit here today, what was Mnuchin's final offer? And will the president come in at executive orders near where Mnuchin ended? That is what we ask, and this is Afternoons LALATE. Pelosi versus Mnuchin. Boy, well, Pelosi's gone. She's no longer part of the negotiations or anything to get you stimulus, so she can go back and have some $12 ice cream. But Mnuchin may be involved with executive orders. The question is at what number? Go to the front channel, subscribe. Thank you for joining me on an afternoon in which everything is happening and more. And also like this video. Coming up in this video, I will be going over really some of your 656 questions from yesterday, but I'll be recapping where we may have ended for the purposes of Steve Mnuchin. At this point, we don't really care what Nancy Pelosi ended at because her deal is dead. Let me get to the breaking details. There's a reason why you tune into this channel, because I told you last Friday, I don't care that her bill passes in the House. It's a dead bill. It's not gonna go to the Senate. Well, it will go to the Senate, but it will die in the Senate because no Republican is gonna vote for it. Well, today, the president made it very clear. He's not gonna approve it either. And so hence it's dead. Ultimately, what happened last Friday was Nancy Pelosi doing a dog and pony show of introducing the bill and getting it approved with some dissenters from the Democratic Party. And I told you, don't get excited about it. That it hasn't passed anything. It's not a law. It's a bill, it's a bill, it's sitting on Capitol Hill. And ultimately, some other channels did this and this and this and said, congratulations, you're going to get passed, you're getting a law. And a day or two before, another channel got 1.5 million views by saying, I have a feeling it's going to get passed in the Senate. I'm like, at $2 trillion? Never. You know, my granddaughter, who I don't have, even knows that. So needless to say, as I sat here today, I thought to myself, okay, we're all focused, we're all here, and where is Steve Mnuchin? The real focus of this question now, as we sit here for Pelosi versus Mnuchin, is what number does Steve Mnuchin end at? And where would that be for purposes of executive orders? Steve Mnuchin ended at $400 a week by all accounts. It's widely reported that Steve Mnuchin did not move at $600 a week for FPUC any time during the negotiations from July till today. He simply did not move. Nancy Pelosi confirmed he was not moving. The number $400 was first reported on this channel, upwards of July. And that's where he ended on that subject matter. Stimulus checks, where did he end? He ended at $1,200 stimulus checks, $500 dependents. So $1,200 individuals will get a stimulus check, $2,400 for a married couple. Dependents who did not get a first stimulus check because they're adult dependents would get a stimulus check. This is great news. People on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, and railroad benefits would get a $500 stimulus check. And minor dependents would get a $500 stimulus check. These were things that he agreed to. He also agreed to some EIDL grants and some EIDL loans and some PPP. I got to remind you that Nancy did not have PPP in her program, and I don't recall, but she did have EIDL. So these are things that he had wanted Americans to get. The question is whether the president is going to do them by executive order. He did not want to give you hazard pay. So as we sit here this afternoon, the call to action is bifurcated. There's multiple things that we need to do as a community to go forward with this. First, the push of the purple power for the president's executive orders. I don't even have to say it. I saw you were doing it before I even pressed record at 2 o'clock this afternoon for a 3:30 broadcast. You are already saying, hey, we need executive orders. We need them right now. We need stimulus checks, Mr. Mnuchin, Mr. President. We need FPUC. Mr. Mnuchin, Mr. President. These are things that the president wanted to do. The president would have agreed to a $1.5 trillion problem solvers bill. That's why we're supporting it. We told Nancy, support the problem solvers bill because that will get passed. Well, she was pig-headed and wouldn't go to 1.5. She wanted to stay at her crazy $2.2 trillion bill. And so will the president do something by nature of executive order? He did not say no. The language that he said today talked about calling off stimulus negotiations. Well, ironically, the stimulus negotiations, despite all this, really went nowhere. If you think about it, Steve Mnuchin introduced his proposal, when was it, a week ago? At 1.7, which is $200 billion higher than the problem solvers, and he never moved on that number. Nancy Pelosi had 2.2 in her head back in July, and she has never moved a penny on 2.2. So ultimately, they may have moved $100 million here or there and here, and ultimately you may have some YouTube channels that want to do a whole thing about, they're negotiating on this, they're negotiating. They didn't move anything. They were $500 billion apart. And so ultimately, you could have people say, I think they're getting close. Let me do some spreadsheets on the screen for you. They're agreeing upon this, there's agreeing upon this, agreeing upon this, but they're still $500 billion apart. And Senator Ted Lieu, a representative from California who has an opinion about everything, including, what type of ice cream you eat, thought this morning that they were very close. Well, they're still $500 billion apart, which is $500 billion. And that didn't cut it. So, for purposes of Pelosi versus Mnuchin, the important thing is, where does this land? How much money could you see and where would it be? What I've been saying across all these videos today is that there's two things that the Purple Power should focus on. One, executive orders. Two, call to action. We need to have a group of people who work as delegates that help find the grants locally for every jurisdiction across the country. Because a lot of people are just not tech savvy. It's hard for them to look these things up. When I say go on Google News and look up part of that $150 billion from CARES Act 1 that is unused, that is now being sent out as grants for rent and food and things like that. They're like, can you help find it for me in my city? I'm like, I can't. It's too overwhelming for me to do in a given day. You can see how little time there is. So we need delegates that help that. Also, we need delegates that help with the issue for unemployment assistance, because a lot of people qualify for unemployment assistance are not getting it or haven't done everything that they need to do to get more of it. And so we need delegates for that as well. Finally, what will happen to Steve Mnuchin? Where will Nancy Pelosi go? Will they braid each other's hair anymore? At this point, it's sort of refreshing that we don't have to hear Nancy's BS anymore. I mean, that's sort of refreshing. But seats for stimulus is not going anywhere. So we need to keep that up, Purple Power. Seats for stimulus is so important so that when these elected officials go home, presumably today, and they're so proud to acknowledge everything that they didn't do, that we need to make very clear. Incumbents, if you're an incumbent and I see your name on the ballot, incumbent, I'm skipping and I'm voting for the challenger. I'm not voting for a single incumbent. I don't care who you are. Let me get to some of your 656 questions from yesterday. Fred Hilton, it's time, Mr. President. Executive orders for the people, period. Lori Patrick, so sad COVID came and attacked not only our country, but also others around the world. The only positive that came from this, the American people now have actually found out that we are lazy, good for nothing, pretending that we're working for us, and now that we're full of luck. We need to shake things up and replace every one of them that's for re-election and try some new ones. Get them out, every single one of them. Amen. Cooking with V. I'm not looking for that check anymore. It's sad. Their hearts are so cold. They've seen and now they know what's going on. Americans, but it doesn't matter. They're more looking and helping the already rich friends getting richer. But what about us? Diane Zipperman, how many times has she shed tears when she tried to go to sleep, but was too hungry at times? I have stomach pains because I'm so hungry from my stomach being upset. La Nagarita, this country doesn't really care about the people. And now they're playing with people's money. Sad. Jency Tella, rumor has said behind closed doors, they're laughing together because they think we're actually hating each other. It's just a political play. Janet, praying in the world, Jesus, we need your love more than anything. Annette Diakos, the tidal wave is coming and one has paddles. Stay strong and don't stay calm. Nicholas, stop paying taxes. Well, no, that's not a good solution. Don Castle, it's their principle versus my money. I love that. Daryl, it's all big put off. All they need to go. Wade, we need fresh and new blood in Congress. Amen. Seats for stimulus. Vote them all out. Vote them all out. Maria, if Nancy can't negotiate a stimulus package, then she will be qualified to kill the virus. Rodney, they're all liars, and what they've said going to keep us, it's not their time. It's time for them to get out. Michael, ridiculous. Nancy and Steve are playing games, period. Donald, we should have taken their salaries a long time ago. It's interesting. These comments were 20 hours ago before the announcement, so at that time, viewers were just sick and tired of Nancy and thought that they had played us a lot of games. Connie, LA question, what would it take to cut the legislative salary? A legislative action by the people whose salaries you're cutting. Chris Quavos, this is ridiculous, man. Patience. I'm trying to stay positive. Billy, if we don't get help before November 3rd, vote them all out. I mean, every incumbent. That's the call to action. Go to the front channel, subscribe. Because, evenings in LA could be entirely different. We have a couple more hours. And also like this video. It's days like this that we come together. We actually come together and we figure out how to get through this together as a family. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay in LA for more.